dropping down into the low 50s tonight. Mostly sunny skies and dry weather for your Saturday, then with a high of 74 degrees with more sunshine on the way by Sunday with a high of 78. And then we really crank up the heat into early next week. We continue to stay dry with lots of sunshine for Monday, but a high of 86 degrees with temperatures staying in the 80s through Tuesday. I'm First Coast News meteorologist Ross Mummah with Jacksonville's most accurate forecast.
We're going to call it a weather alert period between 3 and 7.
I love to forecast the weather.
My passion is making sure you are prepared and you are ready to start your day.
I grew up watching First Coast News. I grew up watching Tim Deegan.
Meteorology is not only my job, it's my hobby. I love being a meteorologist. I love being a part of your day, earning your trust. We can't be on your side by just telling you that.
When it comes to a forecast, trust isn't just one thing. Trust is the only thing that matters.
People plan their day around the forecast, and we know that.
We do our best to give you the most accurate outlook, and it's even graded.
I think it's an honor to be a part of the most accurate weather team. How can I be a better forecaster and better communicator for you?
Every storm,
every forecast.
Earning your trust is just the beginning. We promise to keep it.
The First Coast's most accurate weather team, sponsored by AC Designs.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Lee Southwick. You're watching the First Coast News Weather Channel. We are proud to have been named the most accurate weather team in Jacksonville for the 5th year in a row by Weather Rate. We take our forecasting very seriously, and we want to get every detail right and accurate. We know weather impacts your day, whether it's going to work, going to school, running errands, going to the beach, or out on the water. You need to know what time that rain is going to arrive, how hot it's going to be, if fog is going to impact you, or if it's windy. And we want to nail it every day for you. We promise to keep working hard to stay the most accurate when it comes to forecasting for the First Coast.
For answers, you need to understand the facts. You want the truth.
So I've been doing this over 42 years. It is not
Now,
boring.
the First Coast's most accurate forecast from the First Coast News Weather Team, certified by Weather Rate, sponsored by AC Designs.
Exactly on point with your forecast. Being part of the most accurate weather team.
Good afternoon, folks. The sunshine is slowly giving way to cloudier skies out there now. Welcome in. I'm meteorologist Ross Mummah, and we have officially issued a weather impact alert for the remainder of this evening, pretty much up until about 9 p.m. tonight, especially for areas around downtown Jacksonville and really just the Jacksonville metro area. And to broaden that area out, think the I-10 corridor southward through Clay, Putnam, St. John's, Flagler counties, even Union and Bradford also going to be included in that. And you're starting to see some of those cumulus clouds begin to billow up and develop, and even a few isolated showers out there as well. So this is our camera out at Fort Caroline. So this is looking off almost due west or northwest a little bit. You can see some of those clouds billowing out there. And it is pretty warm right now. Now at Mayport, just west of where this, or just east of where this camera is, 86 degrees. So it's quite warm in a few locations, but you also notice the dew point, only 50. So you kind of have two things going on. One, you have very, very warm air in place, but it's actually quite dry. So typically you need a lot more low-level moisture to get not only clouds to develop, but some showers, if not even some strong to severe thunderstorms. But because the warm is so air at the surface and aloft, pretty much from about 5 to 15,000 feet above the surface, we have very cold and dry air in place. So all of that warm rising air is, although relatively dry to the ground, once it starts rising up into the atmosphere, there is enough moisture being able to get wrung out of it to develop some clouds and some thunderstorms as well. And because temperatures aloft decrease so rapidly, and we have some gusty winds up there, 30 to 40 knots, that is going to allow at least some isolated storms to potentially develop here this evening, some of which could be on the strong to severe side, producing some gusty winds in some of those downdrafts, upwards of 40 to 60 miles per hour. So it is not a guarantee, a little bit of an iffy forecast here today, but nonetheless, we certainly at least will have the possibility of that here throughout the remainder of your Friday late afternoon and into the evening. So this is just kind of a collection of some different shots across the First Coast. So that one on the left, obviously, look at downtown Jacksonville. That is a storm slowly developing on the west sides of the metro area. We'll zoom in on that here in a second. And then your two pictures on the right, one of which in Baker County, the other one I believe is in Olustee. Some clouds also beginning to develop out there. So most folks aren't seeing a whole lot of rain just yet, but we'll continue to watch for that for that chance to increase and intensify here over about the next 30 to 60 minutes or so. So visible satellite also depicts a pretty good picture. So pretty much from Brunswick down through Folkestone and then just north of Lake City. That is where the main cold front that is causing us to see some of these clouds and or storms is currently making its way through. Ahead of that, there's a little bit of a leftover outflow boundary from the storms that were severe across northern and central Georgia late last night. So that remaining kind of leftover boundary is allowing a few isolated downpours to develop, ahead of the main line. So this perhaps gives you a better idea once you actually put the radar on top of just the visible satellite imagery. So zooming in a little bit closer, pretty much from Jasper straight up through Folkestone and then into northern Camden and Glenn counties, that is where the majority of folks are starting to see at least an intensification of the cloud cover and even some quick showers. Doesn't look like we really have any lightning in any of these, which is some good news. A lot of schools are starting to let out right now, so kids either getting on the school bus or walking home, or folks just on their evening commute rather shortly. You don't want to, be running into torrential rains as you're out there on the highway. But nonetheless, areas just off to the east of Woodbine there in Camden County, and then north of Brunswick, almost right along Interstate 95. So if you're driving from Brunswick up towards Darien or northward up towards perhaps Charleston here within about the next 10 to 15 minutes, you're going to have some rain headed your way. Now, as you kind of pull it a little bit more hyper local to Jacksonville specifically, west sides of Duval or northwest sides of Duval County starting to see some pretty heavy rain move in. So think kind of from Moncrief northwestward, so over towards New Kings Road, Pecan Park, areas up by the airport, going to start to see some rain move in. Ocean Way, we'll also start to see some rain here within about the next 5 to 10 minutes. So again, northwestern quadrant of Duval County has at least a shower. Not even a shower, it's really more of a downpour. We'll watch for this to potentially develop into an isolated storm as those cloud tops continue to grow and strengthen here with that daytime heating. So the area that we're really going to be watching for actual storm development is really going to be in that circled area there in red. So pretty much think the state line south or even I-10 southward here over the next several hours. So this, again, has kind of been an iffy forecast over the last several days. Tim and I have been in here going back and forth a little bit on what were the chances of us actually seeing rain, despite how dry the surface actually was going to be. But because the heights aloft or the air aloft is just so cold and dry, it really doesn't take a whole lot of humidity at the surface to allow those updrafts to start going off and to start developing. And you can actually see, let's see if I can take it back here a little bit. Yeah, so that storm continuing to grow. So the airport, I mentioned Ocean Way, over towards Duval Station there in northeastern Duval County, and then kind of headed up towards the south sides of Fernandina Beach, seeing some heavier rain rolling in right now. So north of the Trout River for Duval County, seeing at least the first of what could be several isolated storms here this afternoon and this evening. So we will continue to watch for these to develop. And again, this is all from a cold front that's making its way in, and those very kind of thin line of isolated downpours and storms or forming right along that boundary. So to the south of that, we have a pretty strong westerly breeze, sustained winds, 15 upwards of close to 20 miles per hour at times. But then areas north of that front, you're starting to see a little bit more of a northwesterly wind direction begin to develop. But I've just kind of looked out the window here the last, let's say, 30 to 45 minutes. You've heard the wind starting to pick up, see the leaves rustling and blowing, so gusts upwards of 25 to 30. And I think in isolated storms, we certainly could see wind gusts of at least 40, if not close to even 50 or 55 miles per hour, depending on how strong some of those updrafts do happen to develop. So there's plenty of energy at the surface for these storms to kind of try to fuel themselves off of, especially across northeast Florida. You got 81 down at NAS Jax. I mentioned near Fort Caroline Road and Mayport, 86 degrees there, and then 82 from St. Augustine down to Palm Coast and Palatka and Putnam County. So areas to really the south and southeast of I-10, very warm, slightly higher humidity in a few locations as well in the low to, if not mid 50s. Disregard the Palatka dew point right now. They're having some issues with their sensor, but elsewhere you just notice overall the air is relatively dry, but nonetheless we're still watching for some of these showers and storms to develop. So because of that, we've talked about this a little bit the last 2 days. The Storm Prediction Center has continued to have us in a marginal risk of severe storms. So that really just means they're going to be isolated instances. So not everyone is going to see rain, but not everyone is certainly going to, how should I word that? Certainly not everyone is going to see severe weather here today. So we are not expecting, a huge squall line or MCS, storm complex to develop. That is not what we're expecting. Along that cold front, isolated storms, isolated downpours developing here over the next several hours. I mentioned the wind gust threat, locally heavy rainfall. Obviously going to be a possibility in some of these, as will lightning. Considering, it's Friday night or Friday evening, there's going to be a lot of folks kind of out and about, either heading out to dinner or, to the park. I mentioned school kids walking home from school here right now. So because of that and the timing of the evening commute with these storms and just your Friday outdoor plans, that's why the First Coast News weather team has issued that weather impact alert. So it's going to run until 9 p.m. tonight. Just don't be surprised by any of these storms, passing through or rolling on in, at least over the next several hours. So if you have dinner plans outside, I certainly would not cancel them. If you're sitting out on a patio, having yourself a steak and a beer, continue to do that. Just keep the First Coast News app on hand here, or continue to stream us here on FCN Plus, or watch us on air here within just over a half hour. There will be some rain and showers and storms around, so can't guarantee you'll see any. You might stay dry all night, but it will be a possibility, at least for most folks. So this is kind of what the models are trying to depict. So here is 5 o'clock, so 35 minutes away here now, doing a pretty good job of showing where exactly that cold frontal boundary and line is going to be, starting to move a little bit further southward into, Columbia, northern Baker County, southern Charlton, northern Nassau, and then slowly dropping further southward as your Friday evening wears on. So by 7 p.m., I do expect the chance for at least a few more showers, if not isolated storms, to roll into not only Duval County, but downtown Jacksonville specifically. We'll talk about the jumbo shrimp here in just a second. They're going to be playing here over at Vistar Ballpark at 7:05 tonight. Would not be surprised if there is at least a slight delay with that start time, depending on if some of these roll through. Now, they can play with rain, but as our sports reporter Shaz Pirani, mentioned to me, if there is any lightning within the area, and I think it's within it might be a 5 if not 10 mile radius, because I know last week they had some lightning, I think out towards Ponte Vedra Beach, and they had to be delayed. So all I'm saying is, if there is lightning in the vicinity anywhere, they will have to pause at least for 30 minutes before they can get that game underway. So that will be a possibility. But we mentioned that weather impact alert only runs until 9 p.m. That's because by 8:30, 9:30 at the latest, the whole cold front starts to shift a little bit further southeastward. St. Augustine down towards Palac and Palm Coast could see a few remaining showers, the remnants of it. But overall, I think everything will start to kind of just fizzle on out after sunset this evening. So this is just another way to look at it. If you want to zoom in specifically to where your county is, or your neighborhood or town, what have you, 9 to or now through 9 p.m. I should say for Duval County and Jacksonville, 6 to 10 for the southern half of Clay County. If you're down at the Clay County Fair, you could be seeing some showers, if not a thunderstorm, probably between about, I would say, probably not 5. I would say 6 to 8 p.m. would be probably the 2-hour window to see some storms there in Clay County for the Clay County Fair. But St. Augustine, again, you could see them as late as 9 to 10 p.m. and then after 8 o'clock for the far southern extent of Putnam and Flagler County here tonight. So as I mentioned, some isolated storms could certainly be around, or at least some downpours there for the first pitch at 7:05 for the Jumbo Shrimp. But after 8 p.m., skies should begin to clear and dry out a little bit as those temperatures also start to gradually cool off, because very cool, dry air behind this cold front. So when you wake up tomorrow morning, clear skies, lots of sunshine, but you might need at least a light sweatshirt as you're taking the dog for a walk out there. You got low 50s in Jacksonville. Inland locations, especially west of Highway 301, will probably be flirting with that 50-degree mark. Could be on either side of it by 1 or 2 degrees. So, it's showing Lake City at 49. Could definitely be a possibility tomorrow morning. Coastal areas, as is per usual, slightly warmer, mid to upper 50s for you folks. But we'll have kind of cool mornings here over the next 2 to 3 days, and then slightly warmer afternoons. Tomorrow, though, will be our probably coolest day over the next 7. Mid-70s for your highs for your Saturday. So overall, looking pretty good. A little bit of a northwesterly breeze, so a cool breeze out there. Now, areas along the beach, probably more of a north, if not north-northeast wind. It won't be real windy per se, but it'll certainly feel cool if you're just sitting out there in your bathing suit or trunks. So the surf height will be pretty good for, your diehard surfers like Chief Meteorologist Tim Deegan, but for everyone else, might be a little bit of a chilly day to be out there sitting on the beach and trying to soak up some sun, get a little bit of a tan there on your Saturday. Sunday will look a little bit better simply because we start to warm up. Now, do note that dawn temperature, early morning, upper 40s. Inland locations will likely be in the mid 40s when you first wake up Sunday morning. So there will be a brisk, crisp, chilly start Sunday. By the afternoon, even warmer into at least the mid, if not upper 70s. And then really the heat just continues to build as we head into next week. Mid 80s for your Monday. Some great pool weather out there if you do have a pool. So not going to be real humid next week, but you will notice a significant uptick in the temperature. So here's the big dip in the jet stream from the cold front that we're seeing right now and the slightly cooler weather we'll experience over the weekend. As you then head into the back half of Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, you'll notice some ridging begin to develop, which really that just means almost like a heat dome, building at high pressure right overhead. So you'll notice those darker shades of orange creeping up from the south towards Jacksonville and toward the First Coast. Those are kind of the atmospheric heights that are being shown, but essentially that just tells you have warmer temperatures starting to be advected up toward, northeast Florida and southeast Georgia. So that's why we're going to experience temperatures in the 80s for both Monday and Tuesday. But Tuesday night and then into early Wednesday morning, another drop in the jet stream, a nice little trough digging in, and that will bring us another slight cool down as well, and the chance for a few isolated showers late Tuesday night and into Wednesday morning. But we're going to kind of be in the same scenario that we are in right now outside. Dew points are still going to be pretty low. Dry air is in place. It's not your typical, humid, moist environment and atmosphere that we typically have here, around the First Coast. Much drier air. So, you can see that for the weekend, dry air in place. By perhaps late Tuesday, we'll notice a little bit of an uptick in the humidity, but I do think there could be some dry slots in place. So perhaps a 25% coverage area for rain next Tuesday night, but overall I think our rain chances will stay relatively low simply due to the fact that our humidity values are going to stay low. So Monday and Tuesday, yes, it'll be warm, but not too humid, so they should be some fairly nice, enjoyable days. Once the front clears in Tuesday night, you'll notice a little bit of a drop in the temperatures, mid to upper 70s by Wednesday, but then before we start to climb that ladder yet again then, by Thursday and Friday, we return back to the 80s, and then Friday, so this time next week, another front will be dropping down from the south, or from the north, excuse me. I do think there could be some severe weather associated with that one, slightly further to our north. So Alabama, Georgia, perhaps even Tennessee and South Carolina could see some storms, which could be on the strong to severe side late next week. By the time it reaches us Friday night and then into Saturday, we'll at least likely see some rain. What the severe weather risk will be for us, only I think time will tell. But tonight, still have a very good chance of it. So here is the latest look out at the radar. If you're just now tuning in here, welcome. I am meteorologist Ross Mummah. Just giving you a quick update on the rain and storm risk here tonight. I want to reiterate, we are not expecting widespread severe weather, but isolated strong to severe storms will be a possibility from now through 9 p.m. So the main cold front still lined up from Brunswick down through Folkston and then through the northern part of Columbia County out towards the Suwannee Valley. Out just ahead of that line, a few kind of prefrontal showers developing, moving through the north sides of Duval County. So areas near the airport, Ocean Way, Duval Station up towards First Coast High School, seeing some pretty heavy rain right now. And just peering in, there are a few just real isolated storms developing. If you take a peek kind of to the southwest of Valdosta, a few lightning strikes developing there. But nothing across the First Coast currently has any lightning. So that is at least some good news for the time being. And I think that will be, something we'll have to watch for. I mentioned that's kind of the iffiness about this forecast because you have a lack of moisture at the surface. Although the warming air continues to rise and those updrafts do develop, just how much moisture is going to be available for these storms to kind of take a hold of and build out from. You're certainly going to have those rising parcels of air, but because the atmosphere is so unstable with warm air at the surface, cold air aloft, that kind of creates that instability. But we really do need a little bit more moisture at the surface to get some, strong updrafts to develop. I had showed a little bit earlier that dew points south of I-10 are just a little bit higher, low to mid 50s. You got a dew point of 53, 54 in a few spots, which is still pretty dry, relatively speaking. But it might just make that, much of a difference to get a few stronger updrafts to try and to develop, and in doing so, some stronger storms potentially. So the main risk tonight still going to be those 40 to 60 mile per hour wind gusts. If you're anywhere outside and across downtown here over, I would say, the next 4 to 5 hours, you still could see a few, isolated downpours rolling on in. It looks like that latest scan from the Jacksonville radar is bringing one shower a little bit further southward. So looks like it's now kind of moving through Moncrief and headed towards the Springfield area. So that is just north of the station. I can actually look outside and see it's not nearly as sunny. So the sun is definitely getting clouded out by some of those cumulo and cumulonimbus clouds beginning to develop. So at least for the time being, no lightning associated with any of those, but it does look like as we've now kind of reached that peak heating of the day, the greatest levels of instability have officially arrived. Things are becoming a little bit more active out there, and even just within the last several scans of the radar, that one cell off to the east of Tallahassee and southwest of Valdosta is quickly starting to build some higher reflectivity values and a lot more lightning starting to pop in that. So I think that's just kind of a precursor to show of what is to come here potentially for the rest of us. So urge you to stay tuned here to FCN Plus and also on to First Coast News. We'll have an update for you on this at 5 o'clock and through the remainder of this evening. As I mentioned before as well, download that First Coast News app. You can also, track the radar yourself, but watch a newscast live, especially if you're going to be out and about here this evening, and just don't let any of these, downpours or storms kind of creep up on you. So don't cancel any of your Friday night plans, but take the umbrella. Might be handy to take a rain jacket as well, and just keep a watchful eye to the sky out there. And of course, we'll be on your side in here all night, making sure we keep you informed and keeping you safe as this cold front drops on in. So I'm meteorologist Ross Mummah. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Stay safe, stay dry out there, and we'll have more information on these potentially strong to severe storms here tonight coming up in just a little bit. But for now, take care.